Yo, what's happening everybody, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Go Bat-like video. Today we're going to be showcasing some battles here featuring Shadow Machamp. This Pokemon is actually now meta in the Great League, believe it or not. As you've seen probably from the thumbnail, this thing is currently ranked 14 in the Great League, and it's the best pure fighter in the Great League. Of course, we have Machamp, which is floating around, and it's becoming very overused with the lack of Noctowls and things. And that is the same sort of thing with Machamp. Now, a couple of fun facts about Machamp before we get into the video. Versus Noctowl, if you bait the Rock Slide, so go for a Cross Chop first and then go for a Rock Slide, you can actually beat Noctowl in the one shield. And also you can beat Sableye in the one shield if you beat the Cross Chop and land the Rock Slide. And you can go straight Cross Chop and beat Sableye in the two shield, which is kind of insane even though it's single resisted counters. This Pokemon is so oppressive with the counter damage, and it is actually an amazing Pokemon. It's a Pokemon that I love using, but unfortunately it's very difficult to build around. There are a lot of things that this Pokemon gets completely wrecked by. Definitely Fairy types, Ghost types, and of course Noctowls to some extent. The thing I love about this Pokemon is you can look to one-shot with the Rock Slide, and it does have that amazing coverage. Anyway guys, welcome to the video. Thank you very much to Starlord for sending in these battles. I'm going to do a double upload today with a Shadow Charizard showcase later on from Starlord as well. If you do send in some Great League battles here, they'll most likely not get showcased until the next time Open Great League is around. But we do have Ultra League and Element Cup next week, and I'd love to see some showcase battles for those. So feel free to send in any battles that you would like to get showcased on the channel. Thank you very much for the support, man. We just hit 2k yesterday. Not only did we hit 2k, but we're like halfway out towards 2100 as well. Thank you very much everybody, it's highly appreciated. With all that being said, we're going to hop into the video, see what Shadow Machamp can do in the Great League. And today's question of the day here is, are you going to be playing Ultra League or Element Cup next week? I may spam out some Element Cup, just to basically use that team I was using to gain Elo last season, which will be Ducklet Lead, Bulbasaur and Chikorita. Bulbasaur did get a slight nerf, unfortunately, because of the Seed Bomb costing more energy, so I may have to look around and see if I can change it up a little bit, but do let me know in the comments what you're going to be playing next week, and let's hop into the battles. So Starlord here is running this with Clefable and Alolan Ninetales, so we've got double Fairy in this team. Now the one thing that could be a little bit tricky for this team, we were talking about this beforehand, is a Poison type, because of course there are resisted counters and they wreck for the Fairy types, so that's going to be a little bit tricky. If people do happen to be coming through with Toxapex or Tentacruel, you're definitely in a tough spot here. But we're looking okay here at this point. The opponent will basically get one shot by the Machamp here, and the opponent does go for a catch, and you know, Star was definitely predicting it, but he overfarmed and the opponent made a nice catch there. So nice catch by the opponent. We end up rock sliding this low health Swampert, but you're going to see the power of Machamp right here. We still have a shield, and this Cross Chop, of course, from this range will take it out. Noctowl being a joint normal type is definitely taking a lot of damage from these counters, and that's the amazing thing about this Pokemon here. Machamp is just such a favourite Pokemon of mine to use, and I'm glad to see a showcase. In comes a Gallade, which is an interesting one to come through here. We're going to come into Clefable and look to shield up this first move. This Leaf Blade would definitely hurt a lot. Like, Clefable has decent bulk, but I think we're definitely looking to take switch on this one. Gallade versus Machamp is an absolute nightmare, and we look to get rid of this thing. I think we should maybe just outpace here to the Meteor Mashes just about, and the opponent's going to fire off another move. This update with Clefable is really good. Of course, Meteor Mash is just such a hard-hitting move, and to get to this here in 6 and then 5 Fairy Winds is amazing. And we're going to fire off the Meteor Mash. The opponent does shield it. Can we get to the next one in time? And can we take switch advantage? I think this might be huge. The opponent does, unfortunately, take it. But I think we're going to come in with a Alolan Ninetales and maybe consider farming it down. But this thing is getting to moves fairly quickly, and this is going to be looking tough here. This has got a fighting and psychic typing, and you would just hope that with this thing out of the way... Oh, we look to counter it down with Machamp. Very interesting play there. Now, Machamp, a little bit ahead on energy, can just threaten almost anything with either a Rock Slide, of course, or the Cross Chop. In comes Raichu. This thing is just absolutely ripping through us with Volt Switches, but I think we're going to do the exact same thing to this. We're going to one-shot it with the Rock Slide. Okay, yeah, that does one shot. And in comes a Lapras. Can we get to the Cross Chop in time? We cannot, unfortunately. But this thing only knows water moves and ice moves generally. If they're running Ice Beam, of course, they can know Skull Bash. And we'll see if they do go for it. They go for the Surf. Is it Dazzling Gleam enough to take this thing out? Lapras is fairly bulky. We're going for a little bit of an overfarm and throwing in good timing here. Will this be able to take out the Lapras? It's going to get very close. Can we get to a Weather Ball just in time? The opponent does reach another Surf, and I think this does take out the Ninetales, unfortunately. Very close match. And unfortunately, that Gallade was just such a core breaker. Now we see a Bastiodon, and in comes Sableye, and once again, we have two Fairy types in the back right, so like, we could beat this thing if we wanted to, but there's absolutely no need to. Now I think the opponent should be full sending the return here. They do full send the return, which is amazing, which allows us to overfarm and get up to back-to-back Meteor Mashes. I would prefer going for the Moonblast in this situation, But we'll see what the opponent decides to do. They do go for a shield, so very, very good bait here in the end. We're just going to go straight for another Meteor Mash. Maybe this is actually enough to take out Sableye. I don't really know what the damage is looking like. I guess from that health range, Meteor Mash is the safer play. The opponent's going to fire off a return here. If they go for foul play, it's just, you know, like you can live a foul play, like it doesn't really matter. And they're not going to get to another move, so like, I'm not too sure what the reason is for baiting there. And it is, okay, so we're looking to, I thought that might have been an undercharge attempt to get a little bit of farm. And look at this Meteor Mash go for in this Bastiodon. This is neutral damage, right? So this is why this Pokemon is amazing. Like, you can even hit up some Bastiodons with Meteor Mash. That does a nice little chip into that thing. And you know, if you're taking this thing on from full health, the opponent will be forced to dump energy. Now this Flamethrower is going to hurt, and this is where Shadow Machamp is very tough. Down shields, this thing is tough. In comes Medicham, and in comes Ninetales. And I'm sure you can see the writing on the wall here. If the opponent lands a Psychic, this would be good, because it would get us into a health range where the opponent won't get a ton of farm. But you're going to see that one cross chop, the opponent goes for a Power Up Punch here. I think we might be looking to go for an over farm here. Just try to get as much energy as possible. Allow the opponents to chip us down a little bit as well. Definitely quite like this. And the opponent's going to smack us the whole way down. 4, 5, 6. Are they going to get to another move? This is looking very, very tough. I think, in a way, like, this is where the Shadow's better. We do go for the Dazzling Gleam, which is the most damage. And we have the cross chop loaded. We go for the over tap here. I think the opponent was just at the move. And this one cross chop does so much damage to Bastiodon. I think even from like 50% health that might be taking out. Don't quote me on that one. In comes Sableye, we have 2 answers to it, and we're going to swap straight out. In comes a Sand Slash, and once again guys, with this Meteor Mash coverage, we're going to be hitting this thing for neutral damage. Boom, that does 50% of the non-Shadow Alolan Sand Slash's health, and we can definitely live any one move here. So we're definitely going to force a shield off the opponent, which is amazing here. Will the opponent get to an Ice Punch in time? We go for a slight overfarm, fire off Meteor Mash just before the opponent can throw off a move, and we'll look to see what the opponent decides to do. I think they will shield it, of course, and maybe look to farm the whole way down, or so I thought. The opponent might be just a little bit off track in energy here, and decides to dump the Ice Punch on Clefable and goes for the undercharge, which is definitely very interesting there as well. I think we're going to come in with Machamp and look to just basically counter this thing twice. I'm not sure if the opponent will get off a move here. They do not get off the move, which is fantastic. In comes Sableye and in comes Registeel, and now we're just in a fantastic position. We're going to get off Dazzling Gleams. Dazzling Gleam is the correct move to go for in this matchup. You just go straight Gleam, and that gets the most damage output. But this is going to be amazing because we're going to get a farm down on this thing. The opponent's firing off a move straight away, and this actually will not take us out, so we may actually be able to get off another move. The opponent will be forced to throw, and you know, well actually they're not really forced to throw. They can just build up to 100 energy here and maybe like take us out with a Focus Blast. We do end up settling for the Weather Ball, which I think is absolutely fine here. And yeah, I think the opponent's going to be committing to the farm down here potentially. They do not, because I think they realize that one more Gleam will get them into a very low health range. They go for the Focus Blast, and then in comes Machamp. In comes Sableye, and like I said at the start of the video, I was not watching the gameplay beforehand, but at this point you can go straight cross chop. You have 2 shields, they have 1, and they let that go, and as you can see, even though resisted, that does so much damage. One more cross chop is going to take this thing out with the additional counters that are going through here, and we can actually maybe even look to farm this thing the whole way down and just cross chop the cross chop the Reggie. This is going to be a good game. This Pokemon is amazing. We're basically farming up to back to back. The opponent will not be able to get to moves in time. We do go for a slight overfarm, which is not necessary here, and the opponent's not going to get to a move anyway, so this is absolutely fine. The opponent realizes the writing's on the wall and lets it go, and in comes a Venusaur. So we have sort of like one answer to this thing, and in comes Dunsparce. So this could be an interesting match right here. We're going to full send the YOLO Moonblast right here. Will the opponent let it go? It'll do roughly about 50%. Yeah, it does more than 50. It hits like a truck. And the opponent's actually over-farming here quite a lot. They're going to start dumping off Drill Runs. I think we probably just throw this move straight away. They go for a Rock Slide. You do go for Drill Run for the most damage. Even if it's a Poison Grass type, you go for Drill Run. And the opponent just lets that go and lets us take Switch. So that's fantastic. I think the opponent realizes that their Dunsparce is a little bit dead versus the Machamp, so they're trying to get some usage out of it. I feel like this could be a Venusaur double normal here. We'll have to see what the opponent decides to do. They're going to commit for the farm down. Can they get it in time? They do. The opponent has just got so much energy, but we have to basically come in with Ninetales. Maybe look to shield one of these up. The opponents are, we're just letting this first one go. Again, this does not one-shot, and this is another one. So I think we do start shielding at this time, and look to get off at least 1 or 2 Weather Balls in this. We're 1-to-1 shields, and we're going for the overfarm here as well. Very nice timing on the throwing here. Just trying to basically maximize energy. The opponent lets it go, and that's amazing. In comes Altaria, and you guys are about to see here, we're going to outpace to these Rock Slides. We're not even 50% health yet, right? and we're getting Rock Slide number 1 off. This is going to get shielded. They do not shield it. They had to call the bait. I guess, you know, that makes perfect sense. But look at the damage this thing is doing to fighters, or to flyers. Like, this Pokemon is amazing. And in comes this Pokemon right here. This will be an interesting one. They'll CMP on the Cross Chop. I wonder, does this thing just outpace? I think you can definitely just shield through this Pokemon here. A Cross Chop done a lot of damage, and you know, unless you have a direct answer, and I mean like a fairy type direct answer, Machamp can just run through things. It's running through Altarias, it's running through Noctowls. We do go for a catch on the Mud Bomb, which you love to see. Looking to maintain some energy and some health on Machamp, and try to maintain some shields as well. The opponent is up shields, but in comes Noctowl, and this is not too straightforward for Noctowl. You're going to see here, this one Sky Attack I don't think will take it out. It'll get us down to about 15% health maybe. Yeah, very, very low health. We can get off 1 Moonblast. We maybe could have got off 2 Meteor Mashes, but we'll see what the opponent decides to do. They let that one go, and can we get to another Meteor Mash? I think we would have got off 2 Meteor Mashes, which would have looked to threaten a shield, and we're going to come in, probably look to go for a Farm Down with Ninetales. Now again, this is the benefit of not having the Shadow. These Sky Attacks are far less threatening, and we maybe can commit to the Farm Down. Now one Shadow Ball will be getting us very, very deep into the red here, but we can definitely live this one move. And the opponent just go for another Sky Attack. Can they get to another Sky Attack? They come back in with Quagsire. We look to counter it down. Now we've got an Energy on Machamp. We've got a Moonblast, not a Moonblast, a Dazzling Gleam loaded on the Ninetales. And we'll see what the opponent decides to come in with. They come in with Frostlass, which could be a little bit awkward, but I think we'll definitely take this one. These Cross Chops, even though resisted, would do a lot to Frostlass. And the opponent will have to expend both shields. We're going to go straight here for the Rock Slide. And we have the Dazzling Gleam loaded and a shield. So what we can probably look to do here is CMP on the Shadow Ball. Yeah, I think we would have got the free Cross Chops, but it's not going to make a difference here. We're going to CMP. The opponent will knock it off another move. This one Dazzling Gleam will look to one-shot it. And that's the amazing thing about banking a move with a shield. You can basically look to deny all of the opponent's energy. The opponent basically free off their move straight away, and they're super, super low with the Noctowl. So we're going to take this one out, and that's another good game with Machamp. Hopping in here, very, very bad lead with Medicham, and we come into Clefable. The opponent is weirdly staying in here, and I think they had just reached the Psychic. So the opponent will look to shield up here and maybe look to dump a Psychic and swap out, but they do not. They let it go. So what do they have in the back that they do not want to see Clefable? They come in with a Noctowl, which is definitely a bit interesting, and at this point, the opponent can fire off a move. We've seen this before. We can look to just basically eat this move, no problem, and look to, I think this time, fire off 2 Meteor Mashes, which I think Starlord probably realised from the last one, and we can get off both of these moves. Boom, first one goes through. Can we even get to the Moonblast in time? We do get to the Moonblast. The opponent catches it on a Lantern. Lantern, even though bulky, nothing appreciates this, and Machamp is a counter for Lantern, ladies and gents. This thing is going to shield once, counter this thing the whole way down, and we'll have 100 energy for the Noctowl. The opponent's going to be in an absolute mess right here. Look how much damage those counters are doing, absolutely shredding through it. We don't even have to bait at this point. We can go straight Rock Slide, and this is going to take out the opponent. Rock Slide number 1, the opponent will CMP on the Sky Attack, absolutely no problem whatsoever. The opponent's on about 85% health, probably about 70% now. Maybe a little bit, maybe around 70-80%. Look at this Rock Slide go through from the Shadow Machamp. It almost takes it out from that health range. I think the Rock Slide does around 70% or close to. In comes Azu, and this is a little bit tricky. I think your best answer, I think you've got 2 answers actually in the back. You probably should go into like Clefable here, because Meteor Mash, of course, is neutral damage. Now it takes the opponent 6 bubbles to get to the Play Rough, and I think we're going to have to shield this one up. They could have went for an Ice Beam before we got off that move, and we'll see what the opponent does do. They farm up till Play Rough, and they fire off the Ice Beam bait. Now I think at this point what we may be looking to do is potentially swap out to Clefable, because I think we do have sort of 2 better answers for this in the back. The opponent lets it go, and unfortunately they do get off the move. We're going to let this one go, and hopefully we can take whatever's in the back. We're going to farm it down with Clefable, and the opponent's up a shield, and they've basically got a switch advantage, but they top left, they seal the Clefable on top left, and in comes the next match very thick and fast here. We've got a Dugong on the lead, and as you can see, we're already ripping through this thing. This one Cross Chop will pretty much take it out, and the opponent realises that and they want to shield it up. Now the opponent's going to fire off an Icy Wind. There was this rumour that this thing could Drill Run, but I'm here to let you know that that's not true. This thing only knows Icy Wind, and that's what they're going to throw off here. Now we're going to go for another Cross Chop here, look to basically threaten to take this opponent out. I think even at this point, if they let it go, okay, they do let it go, which is fantastic, and they come in with a Confusion User. We've got the Confusion Users coming through, and in comes a Whiscash. Now this thing can farm the whole way up to the Avalanche, It's not even an avalanche, it's a blizzard, which is even more hard hitting, of course. And look, that one Moonblast done so much damage, and they get the attack drop. I think we live a blizzard anyway, but we're definitely going to live it now, and the opponent maybe will fire it off here. They do fire off the blizzard, which does big damage, but at this point we can just look to overfarm and fire off a Moonblast just before they get to the move. Will the opponent shield this and try and take switch, or will they let it go and look to farm it down? They do let it go, and they come back in with their Hypno, and we do end up getting off a Meteor Mash. Man, Clefable looks so good. I only used this Pokemon once, and unfortunately, just the day I used it, it wasn't performing that well, but I think it's a Pokemon I do need to have a look at, because with that coverage, it does look to be very good. Meteor Mash is just such a good move, Moonblast hits like a truck, and Clefable has decent bulk and decent stats. Now this opponent's running Fire Punch, which is not that common I feel like on Hypno, but it kind of makes sense in this current meta with a lot of the buffed ice types. This is not very pleasant for Ninetales. It's a very rare sight to see a Hypno with Fire Punch, I feel like. Like Dazzling Gleam goes through and it does a lot of damage, but you guys are about to see these confusions are going to rip through Machamp. I think we can only survive one confusion here. If the opponent gets through two, they will take us out. One. The second one's just about to go through, and we do counter down just in time. Amazing win right there, and we've got another Azumarill lead. I wonder if we play this differently this time. The opponent can't just go straight Ice Beam on this, and we're farming the whole way up to 10 here. The opponent does fire off the Ice Beam this time, I think, and this is going to look to threaten shields. Ice Beam is more than enough to threaten this thing's health, and we're going to go for another one of these, which will get this thing very low, and get it into a range where you could maybe even cross-chop it. Okay, maybe not, this is a bulky Azu. I think we're going to go straight for this on good timing, which will look to get this thing super low. I definitely think in this match, you just go into Clefable, but that does take it out. I think Starlord remembered what happened last time, right? And the opponent swaps out of Charizard into this. They swapped, so I think the opponent just, you know, their reflexes took over in that situation. They probably could have stayed in with Charizard at that point, because all of the moves are resisted. Meteor Mash and Moonblast is resisted, and this thing's resisted, this thing's counters are resisted, so definitely just a reaction swap by the opponent, but that Charizard in the back is just always trouble. Can we overcome this Pokemon? This is perfect. You're getting a farm down here with Machamp, which is what you want. You can maybe look to beat the Charizard. Yeah, okay, so we're coming in with Ninetales to go for the Weather Balls. This also makes sense. We have to commit to the full farm down. Now the opponent is going to leave a parting gift of a Body Slam. This won't do too much damage, and we're going to basically look to get shields off the opponent. We've got 2 Weather Balls. If the opponent lets us go, this will get them super low. Even though it is just neutral damage, this will hit hard on the Charizard. The opponent has 2 shields, and they're going to try and make the most of it here. I feel like this is looking a little bit tough. We'll see what the opponent decides to do here. Can we get to another Weather Ball in time? We are just getting to the Weather Ball, I think, here, so we decide to shield up, and the opponent is going to go for a Dragon Claw. Now, one more Dragon Claw will take us out. Yeah, and the CMP us on it. The opponent is going to take us out, and I think this is going to be a good game here. The opponent undercharged it, and we get off the next Weather Ball. That was definitely not the play, folks, because Machamp has a little bit of residual energy, but I don't think we were getting to the Rock Slide here, and we counter down the Charizard. The opponent's on 0 health, and they don't have enough energy for the Body Slam. This Cross Chop, of course, will take them out from 1 health, and that's a good game. So there we go, that's some really good games with Shadow Machamp. Thank you very much, Starlord, for sending these in. Super fun battles, and if you guys want to check out Starlord on Instagram, there'll be a link in the description down below. Starlord's a fantastic player. He competed in one of the regionals in India quite recently and done very well, and of course is a legend player. Played these matches super well. Machamp is tricky to run. I don't think I would run this team purely for the fact of 1 Tentacruel or 1 Toxapex being super tricky to deal with. I think I would maybe go with Clefable and some sort of other Pokemon that can deal with, of course, the counters to Machamp. Maybe like a Steel type or something like that. But this team seemed to be working super well, and as you've seen, like, we took a lot of really good wins there. Thank you very much for sending in the battles. I'll be showcasing a Shadow Charizard showcase from Starlord later as well. Thank you very much, guys, for 2,000 subs on the channel. We're super close to 2,100 as well, so if you want to hit that subscribe button, thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later for a brand new video.